Trump breaking news. America First, what does it mean? An easy-to-remember rallying cry for Trump's campaign was Make America Great Again. In fact, the term MAGA has become a metonym for the entire movement due to its pervasiveness. America First might be the Trump movement's second slogan, following MAGA. America First is a phrase that Donald Trump uses frequently in his campaign speeches. There are a lot of Republican congressional candidates who are promoting themselves as America First, usually in an effort to get Trump's backing. Not to mention that a number of well-known conservative commentators, many of whom have connections to Trump's inner circle, are constant advocates of America First. When taken at face value, America First is among the most trite and uncontroversial campaign slogans in recent memory. Everything the United States undertakes, from trade agreements to immigration policy to diplomacy and foreign policy to membership in international organizations, and everything in between, should be driven by the country's self-interest. This should be obvious, or at least the case. So, to act in accordance with America First foreign policy is to prioritize the interests of the United States of America above all else. Though it goes by the name realist, this strategy for foreign policy is really plain common sense. In fact, America First does not always lead to fruitful foreign policy decisions due to its simplistic analytical lens. Ideological interventionism, whether it is tenacious neoconservatism or idealistic liberal humanitarianism, should be viewed with suspicion by any rational, nation-interest-focused foreign policy. It is critical, though, that the America First approach doctrinaire isolationism, the opposing extreme of ideologically driven foreign policy, with the same degree of skepticism. The 45th president did a good job putting this knowledge into action, and the Trump administration got it. Instead of taking an extreme stance in either direction, the Trump doctrine opted for a more focused foreign policy based on national interests and opposed neoconservatism and isolationism. At times, the United States' prudent foreign policy was influenced by this pragmatic reasoning. Just ask Qasem Soleimani. There were instances when it worked to the United States' advantage. Sadly, a lot of the most vocal conservatives right now, like Tucker Carlson, who is demanding America First, either completely disregard or fail to understand and value such subtleties. They would rather rewrite history and lump together Trump-style America First and ideological isolationism of Representative Ron Paul, Republican Texas, than look at Trump's actual performance as president. On the one hand, it undermines public debate, on the other, it's dishonest. How can America First, as some might argue, downplay the significance of the mass murder in Israel on October 7, carried out by the Hamas terrorist group, which claimed the lives of scores of American citizens and abducted dozens more? Finally, how does America First justify casting doubt on the patriotism of those concerned about what is, by any measure, the gravest hostage crisis involving American citizens since the 1979 Tehran hostage crisis? How can America First ignore the justifiably outraged at the 3 American deaths and scores of injuries caused by an Iranian-supplied drone at Tower 22 in Jordan on Sunday? The United States has failed to retaliate in any way to a terrorist regime whose proxies have assaulted our military bases more than 170 times since October 7. How can this be considered America First? Attempts to transform Islamist dictatorships into gleaming Madisonian democracies and the reckless overthrow of foreign autocracies do not constitute America First. Regarding the serious responsibility we have to safeguard American residents and troops serving abroad, there is also no America First in avoiding this responsibility. Many current America First advocates sound more like Charles Lindbergh and the old America First Committee than like Donald Trump, who campaigned in 2020 on a platform of defeating ISIS and deployed new missile defense systems in Eastern Europe to ward off Vladimir Putin. A peculiar interpretation of America First would condemn the killing of American civilians and military personnel abroad as completely unrelated to the United States. The yesterday's nation-building blunders backfired, and the whole endeavor was deemed a failure. However, basic deterrence in the spirit of peace through strength will always be required. Concern for the safety of American hostages abroad and demands for revenge for American servicemen killed by a hostile regime abroad is, therefore, the lowest form of patriotism that any American might aspire to.